Hi guys, welcome to this video. I'm Prajwal from Indie Crypto, and inside this video we'll discuss about Bitcoin block size. Now last week specifically, the cryptocurrency market was crazy with the Bitcoin Cash rising in price and almost taking the second place in the coin market cap as well, and there was a dip in the Bitcoin market cap as well because of this. And the SegWit 2x fork got cancelled, and pretty much a very action-packed week for the cryptocurrency. But unfortunately I was not around, I was traveling, so I was not able to make any videos on these topics, but I was still following everything that was happening in the cryptocurrency space, thanks to the mobile internet. So I wanted to discuss about few things that was the main things that led to all this drama in the cryptocurrency space. So inside this video I will be speaking specifically about Bitcoin block size, what are the advantages and disadvantages of it, and this was one of the main reasons why the fork happened between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And in my next video I'll discuss about forks, what are the different types of forks, and after that we'll also cover about SegWit, what is SegWit and what are the things you would have to know about SegWit. Then eventually we'll also discuss about Bitcoin Cash, what is it, how did the fork happen, and what was the main reason for the price surge last week. So if you're somebody new, go ahead and subscribe to this channel and hit that bell button so that you get notified every time we upload a new video. So having said that, let's go ahead and get into the topic. Now before we go ahead and look into the block sizes, let's look at about the Bitcoin transactions and mining, so that we'll understand the block sizes better. Now what is basically Bitcoin mining? Now Bitcoin mining is basically using specialized hardware like ASIC chips and the computing power to go ahead and discover new blocks and then verify the transactions in that particular block and then add that block to the blockchain. So this is basically what Bitcoin mining is. And for doing this particular activity or doing this particular job, Bitcoin miners are incentivized with 12.5 Bitcoins currently, which halves every 210,000 blocks. So approximately 3 years, every 3 years the Bitcoin incentives half, and they not only get this Bitcoins as incentives, they also get the transaction fees that happens in that particular block as an incentive as well. So the entire Bitcoin network is actually more dependent on the miners, because that's the way Bitcoin protocol was designed. It was designed on the basis of proof of work. So this is how the miners go ahead and prove their work, and in order to get the incentives. Now if you look at the two graphs here, I have taken these graphs from blockchain.info. You can go ahead and check out the graphs there as well. Now if you look closely, the transactions per day has been increasing significantly year by year, and you can also see on the right hand side where I have the mempool size, the memory of, or the block memory of Bitcoin is 1 megabyte. Now if you can see here, the megabytes or the blocks of Bitcoin is also getting filled as the year passes by, because the transactions are increasing, more and more transactions are filling that 1 megabyte space that Bitcoin was designed on. Now the block size limit of Bitcoin network is 1 megabyte, and it can only handle 4.4 transactions every second. Now this was designed in the beginning by the developers of Bitcoin in order to cut down, or in order to prevent the spam attacks that might have happened on the Bitcoin network. Now, if you look at the Bitcoin scalability factor, now I'm sure you guys would have experienced this recently. There has been a huge wait time for your transaction to get confirmed on the Bitcoin network, and also the transaction fees have shot up to the roof. So just in order to send some amount of Bitcoin, you have to pay a lot of transaction fees, and this is mainly because of this, because the blocks or the memory size of the Bitcoin block is getting filled up, and that's the reason the miners are not able to mine the blocks properly, and that's the reason the transaction fees is becoming expensive. Now, what do we do in order to solve this? We can go ahead and increase the block size of the Bitcoin network from 1 megabyte to 2 megabyte or even more. Now, this is not as simple as it sounds. Okay, so that's the whole point of SegWit fork that was supposed to be happening last week. That didn't happen because there was no consensus. Now let's discuss this thing in detail. Now first, let's see what are the disadvantages if we go ahead and increase the block size of the Bitcoin network. Now the first thing is reduced profit for miners. Now miners are guys who have invested a lot of time, invested a lot of money, and their entire living might be dependent on this as mining. So they are always looking out to make more and more profit from these mining activities that they do. Now if the block size go ahead and increases in the Bitcoin network, the transactions will start happening more easily, okay, and this will significantly lower the transaction fees. Right now at the moment the transaction fees is high. This is because the transactions are not happening very easily. That's the reason the transaction fees is high. So once the block size increases, more transactions can fit into each block, and the transaction fees will automatically reduce. Now this will reduce the profits of the miners, and this might actually motivate the miners to go ahead and mine other cryptos which are more profitable. Now if this happens, the hash rate in the Bitcoin network decreases, which is not a good sign for the entire Bitcoin network. Now the second disadvantage is some people in the community of the Bitcoin space think Bitcoin is special. Bitcoin is not meant to be our daily currency. They think that Bitcoin has a higher purpose than just being a regular currency, and that's the reason they don't want the block size of the Bitcoin to be increased. The third disadvantage is it's going to split the community, right? Because in order to go ahead and increase the block size, we might have to have consensus of the 100% users and miners on the network, but I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen because there is a lot of differences between the people in the Bitcoin community, because there's no single entity that's controlling the Bitcoin space of the Bitcoin network. The consensus is very, very important, and when people don't come into consensus, this is inevitably going to cause a fork in the system, and which will go ahead and split the Bitcoin network, and in the same process it's going to split the community as well, because few people will be for the increase in the block size, and few people will be against the split in the blockchain or increase in the block size. So that's basically the third disadvantage. The fourth disadvantage is it's going to increase the centralization in the Bitcoin network. Now since the network size will also increase because the block size increase, the amount of processing power required to mine these Bitcoins will also increase as well. Now this will be a huge disadvantage to small mining pools, and which will actually give the entire power to the bigger mining pools who have more resources, more computing power, more hardware to mine Bitcoin, and inevitably the Bitcoin mining will become centralized, and there might be a lot of manipulation that might happen in the Bitcoin network because of this. So those are the few disadvantages or few statements against the increase of the block size of the Bitcoin network. Now, having said this, let's go ahead and look at the advantages of increasing the block size. Now, increasing the block size actually is not a loss for the miners. It can actually be beneficial to the miners as well, because once the block size increases, the transactions per block will also increase, because there are more transactions that can fit into each block. So because of this, the transactions increases, the more transactions will bring in more transaction fees, and that might actually bring in more profit to the miner. So the miners have to decide whether it's profitable for them or if it's not. So that's the main confusion for the miners in terms of increasing the block size of the Bitcoin network. Now, increasing the block size will also increase the accessibility. Now, what do I mean by this? Now, when the transaction fees of Bitcoin is higher, say if I'm a normal person and if I've just got introduced to Bitcoin, now I would have to use Bitcoin to transfer value to my friend somewhere in another country. Now, if the transaction fees is very high and it takes a lot of time for my Bitcoin to get confirmed, the transaction to get confirmed, I would not use Bitcoin again, right? Because I would rather go ahead and use other services like Western Union or PayPal, which might be more faster compared to Bitcoin in current scenario, because the transaction fees of Bitcoin is higher at the moment. Also, the wait time for the transactions is higher at the moment. So I'm speaking about the current scenario, right? So this will demotivate anybody who comes into the Bitcoin network as a newbie, and they might not go ahead and use Bitcoin in future. So what this will also do is this will also make Bitcoin available only for a privileged few, like the rich people or the big corporates, and only they will start using Bitcoin, and this defeats the whole purpose of Bitcoin. Bitcoin was not designed for big corporations or rich people to use, right? Bitcoin was designed more or less for normal people who can exist. It's just a parallel system to the banks, where it gives you the power to be in power of your own finances. So that's the main purpose of Bitcoin. So increasing the block size actually helps in more adoption. More people will go ahead and adopt Bitcoin, more people will start using Bitcoin, and this is going to increase the size of the community, and the community grows with this as well. Now, the third advantage is the changes will take time. Now, a lot of people are skeptical about the increase of the block size because they think that too many things will happen at once, which might disrupt the entire network. So this is not the case, because the developments that are going to happen are not going to happen instantly. Everything's not going to happen instantly, right? So it will take time eventually. If you see all the developments that's been happening with Bitcoin or any of the cryptocurrencies, there are always time being taken in order to implement these developments. Even in Bitcoin, people were expecting SegWit 2x to happen last week, then Lightning Network, atomic swaps. There are a lot of developments that are yet to happen, and these developments do take time because there's a lot of factors involved in order to implement these developments. So those are basically the advantages and disadvantages of increasing the block size. Now, in my next video, we'll be discussing what is a fork, and we'll also discuss the difference between the soft fork and the hard fork. So If you have any questions about this video, about the block size, about the Bitcoin network, I would request you to leave your questions and comments in the comment section below. And if you have something to add to this video in terms of the content provided, the information, I would be very happy if you can leave that in the comment section as well. And if you like this video, if you found it beneficial, please go ahead and like it, share it, and if you're somebody new, go ahead and subscribe to my channel as well. So that's it in this video, guys, and I'll see you very soon in the next video. Don't forget to hit that bell button so that you'll get notified every time I post a new video. So that's it, and I'll see you very soon in the next one.